a good read of what's happening with investors with spot, you don't get the full picture of what's happening on the derivative side of things. And whilst there was a lot of buying on the underlying spot Bitcoin, there was a lot of bets coming in on the tail end of the bull market. I think we touched 70,000 for a second time. And then the amount of paper bets on Bitcoins went through the roof. So you don't, in that phase of the market, you don't actually need to sell your Bitcoins, right? If you want to exit, if you're like an investor, a sophisticated investor, you wouldn't sell your Bitcoins. You would just hedge them out and sell shorts on your Bitcoins. And it turned out that you would collect something around 20% annualized yield by netting out to cash. And that's actually what happened. And that tipped the market. And then, of course, the weakness in the underlying crypto side of things on Bitcoin, that's effectively debasing the currency, right? Because if I am wanting to buy Bitcoin and I have to buy spot like before futures, then someone very, very rare in the world who has Bitcoin has to sell it to me, and they've got to be convinced to sell it to me. But with the invention of futures, someone can say, "I'll take that bet with you," and they can sell me that exposure. So that's quite a bearish pressure. It's a debasement on the 21 million finite supply. And so with spot dominance, it's much more bullish. And, so far, this cycle has been, I still consider we're in a reaccumulation cycle. People think we're bullish, but actually underlying it in the phase we're in, it's kind of meaning that the liquidity, the spot buyers there isn't keeping up with effectively the price action that's happening. So the risk is high for a drawdown, and it could turn on us. I think the shape of the economy is not that great. I think it's really hard to tell. Like if we're talking over the next what does it look like over the next year or two, um, I think we're due for a pullback. But when, and that is quite hard to time, I think. Um, right now, there seems to be a lot of buying of risk assets. I'm not sure, I really don't know. Like I think that Bitcoin now is traded like any other dollars and looks like he's a genius. But you look at long term, you play the long game, like eventually this thing's going to pop. Like meme coins are the fad of this cycle. Every cycle there's a fad. That's going to go away. And he'll be left with, I don't know how many millions of people that have bought this coin, and they'll be going, I lost a lot of money over Trump, right? And he's the president. That's a very privileged situation. So I'm very, very confused with why he chose to listen to probably his advisor. I don't know, but it just seems like that's like a very fast money grift, and I don't see any long-term strategy behind it. I think it's an absolutely stupid idea. For someone that's supposed to be wise at his stage of his life, I just don't get it.
Well, this is a situation very similar to the Haktua girl, Haley Welch, who also launched her coin. I feel like she didn't know what was really happening.
But if you look at what's really happened with the expansion of M2, it's contracted. That's what's caused the bear market. And so suddenly the US is paying, like, is it more than the military budget to pay the interest on their debt?
Yeah.
And they're going to be bankrupt if the rates don't drop. And so what happens then? Okay, great. Is people who own assets would do fine. Bitcoin probably rally to the millions. But that doesn't help everybody. It only helps those who have assets. This whole thing's, I just don't know what's going to happen. Is there an easy way out, or a soft way out where there's not calamity?
Right.
So,
I know.
yeah.
I know. It's like Bitcoin is that life raft.
Yeah. So and what it did was it centralized all the countries to the US dollar so that now we're going to go to fiat and we can all stay on fiat and not have that country on the gold standard and the guys on fiat sort of waning over time. And so if you get a Bitcoin backed dollar and it's still the US dollar being the reserve currency, we're back there where it's centralized. It's a lot better because we have real time auditability of the reserves. So you can't
Mhm.
easily say, um, you know, we're going to snip it and we've never audited the gold supply backing all the world's currency is so crazy. So I think that it's a lot that starts to dissolve and then you get like where can you fund a nation state? And I think maybe that's like a city state, like Singapore, where people want to be there for a specific reason because the talent's there. And
Mhm.
so you get smaller and smaller sort of agile entities that hold economic power. We still have the royalty, in the UK. That's the Stigial organs. I think there's probably going to be a loose national boundary. You've got, intercity, inter-province connectivity and infrastructure you need to do, but the power probably goes to the cities. And maybe a new thing arises. And it'll, yeah. So maybe if you go, well, if the nation states becomes weakened, then that suddenly means fiat and national currencies become weaker and weaker, and these digital currencies, well, you over the course of around, let's say, 6 to 7 years, if it doesn't gain value, then the convertible debt they won't convert to equity. Therefore, he'll have to sell bitcoins to then pay the debt back. I've like for the next probably 10 years, he's going to be very very safe from that. We've never ever seen Bitcoin drop below that in a consistent way. Like even if it wicks down, it's fine. He's not liquidated, right?
Right.
It's got to be 6 to 7 years later. These investors are not converting to equity, and then he's got to pay them out in cash. So it's very clever, and the leverage comes from the mid buy it themselves and not recommend it because it was risky for their career. Now I see,
Mhm.
CIOs of banks not only talking about Bitcoin as an investment, but they're talking about it as the next world reserve currency, which is crazy. You didn't see that last cycle. So it's safe to talk about it and recommend. So yeah,
Right. Love them or
it's
hate them. BlackRock sort of de risked Bitcoin for the institutional world and investors at large. Okay. Well, as we start to wrap up, anything
mhm.
else you want to share? What do you want people to be thinking about, or what do you want to leave people with?
Oh, just it's I'll just be cliche and say stack sats and be humble.